What's up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. Monday marks 37 years since martial law ended in Taiwan in 1987. Since then, the country has become a democracy, but the current administration wants to make sure the dark history of Taiwan's authoritarian past is not forgotten. Tiffany Wang reports.
Re-examining one of the darkest parts of Taiwan's history, President Hsieh checks out newly declassified documents from the 38-year period of martial law at the National Archives. It's part of the government's efforts to face the country's violent past head-on.
跟极权主义站在一起的人，企图想要把国家带往过去。我希望国家档案局的资料供给国人能够来了解，凝聚国人的力量，大家一起往前走。
Thousands of people were imprisoned and killed during the White Terror era of political oppression, which was overseen by Taiwan's leader at the time, Chiang Kai-shek. Many hold him responsible for the violence that occurred as he sought to establish his government in Taiwan. But many also admire Chiang for his skills as a leader, for keeping the Chinese Communist Party at bay and making contributions to Taiwan's economy and society. For over 40 years, this massive memorial dedicated to Chiang Kai-shek was watched over by honor guard, but now stands unguarded. The decision to remove the soldiers from one of Taipei's most well-known landmarks comes as part of a campaign to end the glorification of the authoritarian period associated with Chiang's leadership. But for all the government's efforts, some scholars say that it is the public's duty to re-examine the country's history and make sure these kinds of atrocities never happen again.
It is not the burden or the duty of a single government or a single administration. The main point is that people should pay more attention to the lesson we have learned from the past.
Now, the soldiers that once stood guard over Taiwan's contentious leader performed the same ceremony just outside the memorial where his statue sits before marching off, no longer honoring a symbol of Taiwan's authoritarian past. Patrick Chen, Luffy Lee, John Su, and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
President Hsieh says he hopes Taiwan and the Marshall Islands can continue to strengthen their relations as he met with a delegation led by the Marshallese Speaker of Parliament, Brenson Weiss.
借这个场合，我要特别感谢瓦西议长多年来在财政部长、交通部长以及司法部长等职位上，积极协助台湾和马绍尔群岛建立更紧密的伙伴关系。
The two sides will discuss deepening exchanges on educational and agricultural development, gender equality, and climate change. The Marshall Islands is one of Taiwan's 12 official diplomatic allies and is a vocal supporter of Taiwan's participation in international organizations. Taiwan's first domestically built submarine is ready to leave its dry dock for further testing. The sub, named the Haikun, was launched in September last year, but its testing phase has been delayed because of setbacks in the delivery of sensors from the U.S. The sub now has its sensors and power plant fitted, and the scaffolding around it has been removed. The ship's builder began flooding the dry dock on Sunday and says the submarine will next undergo docking tests. A child molestation scandal that has shocked Taiwan is spurring calls for a law change. Child welfare advocates say that rules making it hard for the media to name organizations where abuse is suspected need to change. Jean Van Trieste explains.
It's been 9 months since officials shut down a Taipei kindergarten where an alleged child predator worked. Parents say the owner's son, employed as a teacher, both molested and took hundreds of photos of their children between 2022 and 2023. The teacher was detained and indicted last year for allegedly molesting 6 children. But over 20 parents have since come forward with their own accusations, which are being handled as separate cases. As the court prepares to give a verdict in the first case, officials are trading blame.
2022年接到通报，却迟到2023年的7月才正式成立调查小组。这位老师在被调查当中，园方没有停职，导致于这段期间发生更多的悲剧。
112年7月接获通报，再立即确认许可，处以停职、撤销设立许可，并裁处终身不得任职。相关处理延宕的指控跟事实是完全背离。
But there are also suggestions for how to prevent similar incidents. The first would be explicitly changing the Gender Equity Education Act, the law governing sexual harassment in schools, so it protects kindergarteners. The second is to loosen rules meant to protect children, but which end up making news outlets afraid to expose such cases.
学龄前的这个幼儿园阶段性平的案件的时候，应该去比照国小以上纳入由性平委员会来进行调查。政府机关可以找媒体工会的相关代表，集体事件的曝光上面，我们可以报道到什么程度？报道上面的一个框架，
包括有可能是揭露他们一些身份资讯的一些资料，也都不得揭露。那这个部分就导致这一次的事件，很多的媒体他们都不敢做报道，对，那以至于很多的家长都是处于不知情的状况，然后持续的送孩子到这间幼儿园。
Child welfare advocates say making the media less reluctant to do things like name kindergartens where abuse is suspected will catch predators faster and get children out of harm's way. Ethan Pan and John Van Trieste for TaiwanPlus.
As Taiwan moves towards becoming a super-age society, taking care of the elderly is increasingly falling on long-term caregivers. Chris Gorin looks at the stresses caregivers face in a government hotline meant to help.
Ms. Wong is one of many Taiwanese people acting as a long-term caregiver for their elderly parents. She's been doing so for decades and speaks frankly about how emotionally challenging it can be. A few times, she says it's brought her to a breaking point.
我那时候就是真的就是差点拿衣架，或者是看到电风扇就很想踢过去。
Authorities here are promoting a hotline handling issues for caregivers. And for the first time, the organization running it says the number of calls seeking help for stress has exceeded those asking about services and resources. It's an issue that many families in Taiwan will soon have to face. Taiwan is projected to become a super-aged society by 2025, meaning 20% of the total population will be over the age of 65. By 2070, that number is expected to jump to more than 43%. And during that same period, the share of working-aged people acting as caregivers will grow from nearly 30 to more than 83%. Authorities say they will continue to establish more offices to help caregivers.
家庭照顾者的这个据点，我们现在目前截至这一个6月，我们总共有131个据点，那我们未来会逐步的再来推动这样的一个据点。
The health ministry says it's aware that many people feel caring for their parents is their own personal responsibility, but says they should not forget their own physical or mental health. Given the pace of Taiwan's gallop into a super-aged society, it may take more than a hotline to deal with the challenges facing long-term caregivers. Justin Wu and Chris Gorin for TaiwanPlus.
Landlords can now be fined for overcharging their tenants for electricity. New rules that took effect on Monday require that landlords share billing information with their tenants and set fines of up to around $10,000 for landlords who overcharge. The rules also bar landlords from asking tenants in shared units to pay more than the average kilowatt per hour rate. These new regulations are part of an effort to help renters as Taiwan's cost of living rises. Rates of some sexually transmitted infections have hit a 6-year high among teenagers in Taiwan. Authorities say increased use of dating apps and social media may be to blame. Wesley Lewis reports.
Adolescent STI cases in Taiwan have hit a 6-year high. Health authorities say the lifting of COVID-19 restrictions, paired with the increased use of dating and social media apps, are leading to more risky sexual behavior among teenagers.
年轻族群的一个性行为的一个年龄层下降，很多人在使用交友软体或是一些网络，可以很快速的联系一个彼此，口力的一个疫情趋缓，所以筛检量跟通报量都有增加。
CDC data shows that gonorrhea cases among adolescents aged 13 to 18 rose from 191 cases in 2018 to 667 cases in 2023. And syphilis cases increased from 81 cases in 2018 to 262 cases in 2023. That's a 3-fold increase. Childcare NGOs also report that Taiwan has higher rates of gonorrhea and syphilis compared to EU countries. Doctors warn about the symptoms and lasting effects of infection.
在男生来讲，它主要是尿道炎啊，那有时候会引起所谓的往上会引起前列腺的这种发炎。那女生的话，就是除了尿道炎以外，也会引起子宫颈炎的发炎哦。那甚至假如说多次感染的时候，可能会导致所谓的不孕的这种现象。
Doctors say schools should offer more comprehensive sex education to help discourage the spread of STIs. They're advising young people to practice safe sex and get tested regularly, as early treatment is the best way to prevent future complications. Kama Xu and Wesley Lewis for TaiwanPlus.
Divers off southern Taiwan have found extensive coral bleaching brought on by sea temperatures of 30 degrees Celsius and above. Some of the reefs have bleached since as recently as 2 months ago, and algae growth shows that some of the coral is completely dead. It is the worst bleaching event in the area since 2020. The local Kunding National Park is asking Taiwan's National Aquarium to look at how to save affected reefs. It's the breeding season for birds in Taiwan. It's also the busy season for local wildlife rescuers, taking care of abandoned hatchlings. Our reporter Hsieh heads to a wildlife hospital in eastern Taiwan to find out how.
Every day, starting at 8 in the morning, the staff here at Wild One Wildlife Rescue Center get to work. It's the only non-profit wildlife rescue and recovery center in eastern Taiwan, where the majority of the country's wildlife resides. The staff cleans up after, checks up on, and feeds the animals here, which are mostly birds right now, as it's currently breeding season. Most cases the center gets now are baby birds that fell out of their nests. One concerned citizen brings in a baby nightingale that ended up in their yard and was mauled by their family dog.
因为昨天就在我们家发现一只夜莺的雏鸟，然后想说，我们没办法自己照顾，然后就上网去查了一下台东地区有没有相关的动保协会这样子，刚好就有搜寻到这个地方。
Unfortunately, the birdling didn't survive. Its wounds were too severe, and it had to be put down.
它的右边的翅膀已经是粉碎性的骨折了，然后伤口的状态不是很新鲜，然后因为后续可能会有严重感染的风险。
Not all rescued nestlings have to be put down, thanks to the center's dedicated staff, who go above and beyond to help the injured birds. To help these birds return to the wild successfully, the staff here dress up in this outfit to ensure that the birds do not become too familiar with them. This is to make sure that they still have a healthy wariness of people and will avoid them after they are released. Over the last 3 months, Wild One has received almost 80 injured baby birds. About half of them don't make it. Just under 20% have returned to the wild, and the rest are still in treatment. Though the center is seeing more and more cases, it's not necessarily because more birds are getting hurt. Wild One has hosted hundreds of activities to better educate the public on how to handle injured wild animals and where to bring them. With the help of locals, wild animals in eastern Taiwan have a better chance of survival and of returning to the wild. Alex Chen and Hsieh in Taitung for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's Hsieh has won her first Wimbledon mixed doubles title together with Jan Zielinski of Poland. The pair beat Mexico's Santiago Gonzalez and Giuliana Olmos in 2 straight sets. Hsieh and Zielinski won another Grand Slam mixed doubles title at the Australian Open earlier this year. This win marks Hsieh's 4th straight Wimbledon doubles trophy. Students from Taiwan tied with the U.S. and China for most gold medals at this year's International Biology Olympiad held in Astana, Kazakhstan. Taiwanese competitors won 4 golds at the event, which tests pre-university students under 20 on theoretical and practical aspects of biology. The team met with President Lai Ching-te before they left for Kazakhstan. The gold medalists will each get a government scholarship of more than $6,000 US. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out this fireworks show in Paris as France celebrates Bastille Day. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.